The story begins with a boy in the hospital. His name is Takudo, suffering from a serious illness. His family was simply waiting for his life insurance money. Therefore, no one ever visited him. His only solace was a game he constantly played. Then one day he faints while playing the game. When he opens his eyes, he finds himself sitting on a stone throne in the middle of the forest. Just then a woman arrives and calls him king. Her name was Otto, his favorite character in the game. Takudo is overjoyed to see her in real life, but he's also very confused. Otto then tells him that he's part of a game, and that Takudo is the game's top player. Takudo asks if she's the one who summoned him here, but Otto says she doesn't know anything. She too suddenly appeared in this forest. Perhaps this is a world just like ours. Then Otto asks if he'd like to build a kingdom with her, like the old days. Takudo agrees. The two then begin the game. The first task was to find out where he was. So Takudo summons a scout using magic. But as soon as he sees the scout, he finds it very strange. He then formulates his strategy. We need to avoid unnecessary trouble until we're able to defend ourselves. Takudo then sends the scout to gather important news from the surrounding area. Everything works just like in their game. He can see everything through the scout. Takudo only has 200 mana points, and summoning the scout has already spent 100. That means he only has 100 points left. He simply plans to build a settlement as their base, which will cost another 20 mana. But now he doesn't have enough mana left to summon a warrior, so he becomes a little worried about what will happen to them if someone attacks. Atu says, "You don't need to worry. I'll fight for you." But Takudo didn't believe her. As a hero unit, Atu will grow stronger over time, but right now her power was like that of a normal human. Meanwhile, the scout was wandering the forest, and Takudo was surprised that he hadn't seen any animals or monsters in such a vast forest. He was also worried that if he couldn't find any animals, he would have to spend mana to feed them. Then the scout found something interesting, which Takudo could also see. A dark elf settlement had been built in the middle of the forest, and there were many elves there. Atu was relieved that it was only dark elves, as they posed no threat to them. But Takudo thought they might pose a threat later, so Atu suggested they move to another location. Takudo agrees as they hadn't built anything there yet. But before leaving, he wants to see the dark elves up close. Then they realize something, and they turn back and see a group of dark elves. All the elves are shocked to see them. We then learn that they were driven from their entire homestead. So they've come to this cursed forest out of necessity, and the long journey has left the children very weak and hungry. So a group of them set out to find food. Emil, an elf girl in their team, is very scared because she's heard rumors that evil spirits lurk in the forest. But the team leader explains that it's just a superstition, but he himself is deeply afraid. As soon as Gio sees Takudo, he too is terrified. He feels as if he's facing the same evil spirit. But then he slowly approaches Takudo, kneels down, and reveals that he's the head of the Dark Elf clan. Takudo then apologizes for coming to the forest without his permission. Odo doesn't understand why the elves are showing so much respect. Nevertheless, she asks what they're doing there. Gio explains that their clan used to live peacefully in the Central Plains. But one day they were attacked and driven out, even though they never quarreled with anyone. Yet just because of the Dark Elves, their village was destroyed, and they had to flee for their lives. They don't even have food, and have been hungry for days. Hearing this, Takudo feels sorry for them, and decides to help them. Using some of his mana, he creates apples for them, surprising Gio. However, he hesitates to eat them, and everyone else is so hungry that they immediately start eating them. So Takudo also creates piers for them so they can get more food. But Gio is still hesitant, so Ioto yells at him that refusing Takudo's gift would be considered rude. Gio bows his head and says that the children in his clan are in dire straits and will soon die if they don't get something to eat. He then asks permission to take the food to his own clan children. Takudo feels very sorry for them, so he creates even more food. But Ioto is not happy because it's costing a lot of mana. Then all the elves thank the pieces profusely and return to their camp with the food. Everyone in the camp had almost given up. Just then, Gio and the others arrive with bags full of food, their joy overflowing. When asked where he got the food, he doesn't mention Takudo. He simply says that he was lucky. Then at night, Gio sits with you. Just then, clan leader Moltar approaches him and says he did a great job today. However, he notices that Gio doesn't seem so happy. He asks what's the matter, and after a brief silence, Gio explains everything. He also assumes Takado is the same evil shadow. Moltar asks who he's talking about. Gio realizes that Emil told him about a powerful being sealed in this forest. Mutter had heard about this legend before, and is shocked to learn that Gio has actually seen the King of Ruin. He explains that according to the legend, when the world becomes extremely bad, the King of Ruin comes to Earth and destroys everything. He asks Gio if he called himself the King of Ruin, but Gio doesn't remember saying anything like that. Moltar then asks if Gio spoke to him, but Gio says he wasn't talking much. Instead, it was a woman speaking on his behalf. Hearing Gio's words, Mulder becomes convinced that this is bad news for him. He asks if Gio had to sell his soul for this food. Gio replies that the King of Ruin didn't ask for anything in return. Moltar finds this a bit strange. Gio explains that the King of Ruin probably helped them out of pity. Moltar can't believe Gio's portrayal of the King of Ruin as such a good person. He asks if Gio was hypnotized, but Gio clearly states that they are still alive because of him, and that they weren't in a position to refuse him food. Hearing Gio's words, Moltar is truly in a fix, worried about his people. He says he'll make a deal with the King of Ruins. Meanwhile, in Takto's camp, Otto scolds him for wasting his mana on others. Takto says that he felt sorry for the Dark Elves. He couldn't bear to see their children starve. Art understands, but reminds him that he needs to build his own kingdom, so he can't waste resources like this. But Takudo has other plans. He thinks that when the Dark Elves came, he wasn't able to speak to them properly because he was nervous. Otovius is surprised to hear this. He constantly insists that Takudo is deliberately pretending to be stupid. Just then, their scout returns and informs them that the Dark Elves are coming again. This surprises both Takudo and Otto. Takudo thinks they're coming to get more food, so he wants them to just take the food and leave, but the thought of talking to them makes him very nervous. Otto says she'll handle all the negotiations herself. This will make Takudo seem like a mysterious and powerful king. Otto likes the idea. A little while later, Moltar and Gio arrive and kneel down. Moltar introduces himself as the chief of the Dark Elf tribe and asks what their benefactor's name is. Artu says that you're all facing Takura, the King of Ruin. Gio is shocked to hear that Takto is indeed the King of Ruin. Moltar then thanks Takto again for his kindness. Gio and Moltar are shocked to hear this, as they thought their help would come at a significant cost. They ask if they really don't have anything in return. Otto reminds them that they have nothing to offer anyway, but Moltar feels uneasy. He feels this could prove costly for them later. Otto angrily says that Moltar's stubbornness will cause problems in the future, so it would be better to finish everyone off here. But Takudo doesn't want that. He understands that Moltar feels awkward accepting such a big favor, so Takudo considers asking for something in return. Then Atu hears Takto's decision and says that in return, he must provide information about the world outside the forest. Hearing this, Moltar breathes a sigh of relief and says he will gladly do so. But Atu adds that after providing the information, he and his people will immediately leave the forest. Moltar requests Takto to let them stay, or else they will be homeless again. But Natu immediately refuses and threatens to kill them. Defeated, the two begin to leave. But Takto, unimpressed, suddenly comes up with an idea. They both stop and ask, "Would you like to live in my kingdom?" Everyone is shocked. Atu pulls Takto aside and asks, "Are you crazy?" Takto realizes that these people could be useful to them. Atu thinks it over and agrees, thinking it's not a bad option. Then Takudo jokingly says that in the game, only the hoof-like creatures lived in Mandra. There were a lot of them. Do you really want our kingdom to be filled with only them? Artu laughs at this and agrees. Then turning to Moltar and Gio, she says, "If you live in Mandra, we'll give you protection, and you'll become evil from that day forward." Sometime later, Takudo and Otto head towards the elf camp, as the elves have agreed. Upon reaching the camp, Moltar announces that their new king has arrived. The entire camp bows down in respect to Takudo, and Takudo goes and sits on his throne. Some elves are frightened by Takudo's first sight, while others are overjoyed. However, those who get too close to him faint due to Takudo's dark energy. She warns Joseph not to look directly at the king, or else he'll think he's being stereotypical. Takudo then announces that from today on, everyone present here is a citizen of Manra. Gio then recalls all the injustices and pain they endured. The others also recall how their village was suppressed, so they are relieved that it's safe. A few days later, Takudo's condition worsens. He looks at the map he received from Mutter and, frustrated, says, "This is the worst location ever." Otto asks what the problem is. Takudo explains that there are powerful kingdoms on both sides of this forest, and if they find out about Manra, they'll be finished. Furthermore, we can't even grow anything in this forest. Hearing his concerns, Otto doesn't say anything, but Dakota relaxes a bit, believing they now have Dark L, and that with his help, they'll be able to do something. Just then, Mutter and Gio arrive with Emil. Gio introduces them to Emil. He explains that he's very smart and an expert on domestic and foreign affairs. Takado is delighted to hear this, but he realizes that the three are quite nervous around him. So he tells Atto that there's no need to be so formal. Atto then informs them that Takado has made some decisions and has given Malter the responsibility of handling the kingdom's affairs. Gio is also appointed captain of the Manra army. Gio proudly declares, "I will kill all my enemies that stand in my way." Takado becomes a little perturbed to see him so serious. He tells Otto to tell everyone that he loves peace and that they should avoid starting fights unless absolutely necessary. Hearing this, Gio is incredulous that the King of Ruin is truly a peace-loving person. Malter then tries to make himself look better, claiming that he possesses more knowledge than Gio. But Gio immediately retorts that an old man like Malter won't be able to help them much. But Otto isn't interested in their buffalo, so she asks Takudo if he can give them the order to start construction. Takudo tells them to gather materials for her, but he also wants to ensure the forest isn't destroyed in the process of gathering materials, and Otto is impressed by her idea. So she asks Moltor if it's possible. Mulder says it could be possible if they build houses in the hollows of giant trees. Takudo is impressed and suggests they try reforestation together, but they're a little confused because they didn't know what reforestation meant, which Takudo is quite surprised to learn. Art then asks them if they at least know about military magic or the 6 great elements. Malter says he's only heard of the 4 great elements. As for military magic, Emil explains that no one knows anything about it. This is where Takudo and Otto realize that the people of this world are truly lagging behind. For now, Otto explains about reforestation, which involves planting new trees in place of the cut trees and using magical elements to make them grow faster. She then lies, saying that Takudo invented this technique himself. Hearing this, Emil becomes very excited and asks if she was the one who created the apples and grapes. She has even planted some grape seeds and is now waiting for them to grow. Both Takado and Attu fall silent, as fruits like grapes and apples don't exist in this world. Yet Takado had created them with his production skills. Takado then contemplates what he can create with his power and summons a sick to test it, realizing he can create anything with his mana. Consequently, he begins to believe that perhaps ruling the world isn't that difficult after all. Meanwhile, the Holy Empire senses dark energy in the forest, so the Holy Saint sends some people to investigate. They encounter Gobian. With a single gesture, Hollis burns everyone to death, leaving all the knights stunned by her power. Selena then asks Cardinal if he has any news about the omen she sensed in the area. But the Cardinal says he can't send anyone there without the church's permission, so Selena decides to go and investigate herself. But Cardinal stops her, saying that as a saint she must act with caution. However, Selena is quite persistent, so the Cardinal has to give in. Meanwhile, in Mandra, the Dark Elves work tirelessly, and finally, the throne room is ready. Takudo is overjoyed, as he no longer has to sleep in the open. Meanwhile, Takudo's ministers arrive. They had a meeting that day. They then give Takudo new clothes. Takudo is overjoyed to see them, and he is lost in his own clothes. Atsu orders the meeting to begin without him. First, Malter asks what building should be built after the throne room. So Atsu suggests that they should first start a food production facility. Moltor asks, why is there a need for this when Takudo can cook with his own power? To which Atsu replies, what if he's not around? Then Atsu shows them the flash tree, which grows mysterious meat. She says it's the first step in their food production plan, but Moltor, Gio, and Evil point out that most people don't eat such meat. Atu promises to find more food sources in the future, and that the tree could also speak, which seemed quite scary. Then comes the issue of research. If they want to progress rapidly, they need new technology. Atu suggests that they should research military magic, which can destroy thousands of enemies at once. Moltor takes on the responsibility of this research. Finally, it's time for military planning. Geo says he can build an army, but Takoto insists they shouldn't focus too much on the army right now, as they don't have the capacity to manage one. Geo objects, saying who would protect them if they were attacked. As leaders of the Dark Alp tribe, they are under limitations. Takoto, however, didn't want to spend so much on arming them. So he says he'll create a hero. This confuses Moltor and Geo. Auto heroes serve under the king and are very powerful. Certain conditions must be met to summon heroes, but their progress will allow them to summon them quickly. This resolves all issues for now. Meanwhile, Junior Paladin Lunius is praying in the umpire. High Paladin Valius comes to speak to him, saying it's time for them to leave. Lunius gets up. Just then, Valius notices that Lunius is wearing his wedding ring. He asks him about his family. Lunius reveals that his wife's name is Marcia, and his daughter's name is Mina. He further refuses to reveal his family details. Valdis then complains about such a useless mission, but Lanius reminds him that it's related to Selena, so he should take it seriously. Still, Valdis finds it strange that he's been given such a weak team for such an important mission. In fact, only he and Lanius were powerful. The rest of the team was useless. Meanwhile, in Man, things are going very well. The place now seems truly habitable, and so are the Dark Elves. There were no longer any problems with the flash trees. Emile shows Takato around the area. She explains that the flash trees are growing well, so the food storage will be completed quickly. Meanwhile, Malter is busy with magical research. The other elves who know magic are also helping him. Additionally, they had a waterfall nearby, ensuring they would no longer have water problems. She then shows them the public office where all of Mara's meetings are held. Tecto is very pleased with Emile, as she was managing everything so well. However, Emile, a little nervous, asks Tacto if he's happy with her work. He says he did a great job, and Emile bursts into tears upon hearing Tacto's praise. Emile then shows Tacto the flash tree farm, which is growing beautifully. However, Emile is still afraid of the strange talking flash trees, so she takes him to see the water source. They all go into the forest, but upon arriving, Emile becomes frightened because the water has turned completely black. Moltor and Geo arrive, and upon seeing the water, they no longer believe it can be used. Artio then declares that the water is still completely safe, and shows them by drinking it himself. The others are shocked that Artio took such a risk, but she explains that this is actually due to the cursed place, and even though the water, air, and land appear dark and dull, it will not have any negative effects on the people of Mandra. But because of the provenance, this place could easily be spotted by anyone. So Geo and Moltar think it's time to form an army. But Otto says there's no need to worry, as a hero can handle small matters alone. However, Moltar and Geo still don't understand the power of heroes. So Otto decides to show them himself, and tentacles sprout from the place, cutting down the trees in one fell swoop. Seeing this, everyone is astonished. Otto then explains that he himself is a hero, and as long as no major problems arise, everything will be fine. But Takuto is a little annoyed with Otto for destroying the trees to show off his power. Moltar and Geo then consider building a palace for Takuto, befitting his majesty. But Takuto thinks it would be a waste of resources. However, Moltar, Geo, and Emile insist on building a castle. Otto suggests that Takato should probably complete their beach. Takato says he's always dreamed of building a floating castle, and grants them permission. Meanwhile, the Polarans slowly approach them. Valdis tells Lanius that he's done a good job hiring so many people. Linnaeus says it wasn't easy, as most people are in the north, where a group of barbarians has gone and started raiding the area. Hearing this, some people start talking about hearing that a witch lives there. They stop in a town for the night. Lanius asks Bargo about the beach. Bargo explains that it's all a rumor, and that it's causing havoc throughout the north. This seems completely absurd to Lanius and Valdis. He then asks them why the kingdom sent 2 holy knights here so quickly. What are they going to face? Even Valdis didn't know much about this. but he reassures Barrow that everything will be fine, and they might encounter the Dark Alps. Lanius worries that if left unchecked, the Dark Alps might one day grow powerful and attack his kingdom. That's why he wanted to kill them all. Veldis says that this mission is just for investigation, so they won't kill anyone. Hearing this, Lanius doesn't understand why Veldis is giving up such a big opportunity. Varco simply says, "We're just family, so we don't want to risk our lives." Meanwhile, in Manara, Takodo gathers everyone together and begins pouring mana into a fruit. In front of everyone, the fruit transforms into a scout. Everyone is amazed at how Takodo just created a new creature. Takado then returns to his throne room and laments that he didn't ask her many questions about the scout mission, because, in truth, he himself didn't know how it worked. Ar then says they should create a hero now. This will make them incredibly powerful. She then asks Takado which hero he'll summon first. Takado says he'll summon Aizla, the Queen of Moths, who will multiply the power of all nearby insect-type soldiers. Furthermore, Aizla can also create larve soldiers. Oto likes Takado's idea. Takado explains that other heroes can cause a lot of trouble, but he wants to maintain peace in his kingdom, so Aizla is best for them. The scene then changes, and we see the Holy Knights confronted by an angry heel joint, all ready to fight him. But then Weldy stops everyone, saying he can handle it alone. Lunas tries to stop him, but Voss slowly walks towards Joint and begins reciting a prayer. Lunas convinces the other machines that Voss is using a secret technique, powering his attacks with prayers. Just as Joint is about to attack, Weldy's easily cuts him in two. Everyone is stunned, and Lunas praises him, and they resume their journey. Meanwhile, in Manara, Takudo is eating a burger. Otto is a little concerned about his junk food habit and suggests he eat healthier. Takudo explains that in his previous life, he was in a hospital where he was only given bland food. So in this life, he wants to enjoy food to the fullest. He then asks Otto to call Gio and Maltor for a meeting. Odo immediately agrees, but she's a little curious about what this meeting is about. Atkudo explains that he wants to consult with Gio and Molto about how they should handle a new scout joining his army. Odo then asks, "Are you talking about the village outside the forest?" Takto agrees, explaining, "We need to maintain good relations with them, otherwise they could create problems for us." Odo then warns him not to worry so much. But then Odo realizes that some people are coming here armed. He tells Odo to handle these soldiers. He also tells him to try to resolve the matter through negotiations first. But if that doesn't work, she could kill them. The soldiers are preparing to enter the forest when Atu emerges, fully covered. Both Veldis and Lunius are shocked to see her. Veldis asks Atu who she is. She lies, saying she's a dark elf who lives in these forests with her people. This enrages Lunius, but Voss stops her and Atu tells him they've come to investigate the forest. So will she let them in? But Atu refuses, which makes Lunius furious again. He feels bad that a low-level dark elf could stop him. Veldis then calms him down and tries to convince Atu. He explains that they've received a warning from Sand, that something big is about to happen in this forest. Upon hearing this, Lunius is utterly terrified because he just leaked their secret, which is against their rules. He yells in anger, but Veldis tells him to keep quiet again. But despite all their efforts, Otto refuses to let them go into the forest. And Veldius, seeing Aura alone and speaking so confidently, realizes they are in danger there, so he orders his troops to turn back. But Lunius reveals his foolishness and accuses Valdis of abandoning the mission. He then orders the machines to go into the forest and complete their investigation. Everyone else is forced to obey. Then Lunius orders that the 8 be captured immediately. However, Valdis repeatedly warns them against doing so. Nevertheless, they continue onward. Otto also sees that this matter won't be resolved simply by talking. The next moment, Lunius finds himself lying on the ground, covered in blood, with scores of people dead, all due to Lunius's foolishness. Valdis then shouts for someone to immediately deliver this news to the kingdom, but all their messengers had already been killed by Otto's attack, and now they have no option but to fight. So all the machines simultaneously fire their arrows, but Otto easily blocks them and bluntly states that it's all Lunius's fault. He should have left peacefully, and Lunius finally realizes he's made a grave mistake, mistaking Otto for a witch. Veldis had similar suspicions, but now they've become convinced. He wanted to avoid a fight, as normal soldiers like the machines weren't even capable of standing up to them. Veldis then orders them to retreat immediately, saying he and Lonius will face them alone. He then attacks Otto with full force, mocking Otto for being weak. But Veldis and Lonius together cut off 2 of Otto's tentacles, leaving her stunned. Veldis says that if they cut off all of Otto's tentacles, she'll be defeated. And Otto quickly transforms 2 machines into hostiles to protect themselves from their attack. But Veldis insists that they must sacrifice some lives to save their kingdom. Lonius agrees. Then, both of them attack with full force, severing the hostess and Otto's last 2 tentacles in a single attack. Otto didn't expect to sacrifice his own comrade so easily, and for a moment, it seemed like Otto was in real trouble. But it was all part of the game. The next moment, the ground cracks open, and several new tentacles emerge, penetrating Veldis and killing him. Lunius is stunned by this. Smirking, Otto declares that she could summon countless tentacles and she was just playing with them. Seeing this, everyone panics. They knew Otto wouldn't leave them alive, so Lunius immediately orders everyone to run in different directions, and they do so. Otto watches them flee but doesn't chase. Then Lunius raises his holy sword and attacks Otto with full force. Odie uses a similar power to block it, leaving Lunius wide-eyed. Shocked, he asks, "How can a demon like you use the holy sword technique?" Odie explains, "When I killed Veldis, I learned some of his techniques, and now I'm as skilled as Veldis." Using his own techniques, she attacks Lunius, saying, "Poor Veldis died because of you." She then taunts him, "Didn't you even think about what will happen to your wife and daughter after you die?" Hearing this, Lunius immediately understands that Oti stole all of Veldis's memories. Otto then asks, "Do you want to know what was going on in Veldis's mind?" He was thinking only about saving his comrades until his last breath. He was a good leader. But then Lunius says that the escaped machinists will go and report to the state. So this mission wasn't a complete failure. But Atu tells him that the rest of his comrades must have killed him by now. Hearing this, Lunius's heart breaks. He realizes that he is now alone. He swings his sword one last time and attacks Atu, but Atu holds him tightly. But before dying, she says, "If you had listened to Veldis, you would have been happily with your family. But you chose a different path, so I will brutally kill your family and everyone you know and tell them that all this happened because of you." Lunius begs them not to do anything, but Atu takes his life. After Lunius' death, Geo comes to Atu and tells him that he and his team have killed all the escaped machinists. Atu praises him and gives him the task of disposing of all the bodies. Before leaving, Xiao asks her, "Are you really going to destroy his family and everyone associated with him?" Ioto replies, "I just wanted to scare him." She then immediately goes to Takudo and explains that they thought she was a witch. But there were no witches in their game. This world is different from theirs. Takudo explains that most of the game's features still function as they should. Furthermore, her skills have improved. From Veldis's memory, she has gained a lot of information about Kavolia City. Currently, Kavolia's entire focus is on the disturbances in the northern region, meaning they won't be focusing on Monray for now. However, due to the disappearance of the investigation team, they will definitely take action. At this point, Takudo is worried about the witch. Ioto also didn't learn much about her from Veldis's memories. But the witch was very powerful, and her name is Arakino. We are then shown Arakino, who has just completely destroyed another village and is preparing to attack the next one. But before leaving, she brings the dead back to life as undead servants. Meanwhile, Takudo suspects that Arakino may have just arrived from another world just like them. Otto nervously asks if they should try to contact her. Takudo immediately refuses, saying they know nothing about her, so meeting her could be dangerous. This incident makes it clear that Man-Ra urgently needs a strong defense line. Takudo now plans to summon a new hero as soon as possible, choosing a combat-oriented hero to replace Izala. He also considers how he cannot remain hidden in such circumstances. Therefore, they must make friends with other kingdoms, and this friendship will be possible only after defeating the soldiers of Vulia. So they decide to make friends with other kingdoms, and Takato decides to go himself. Meanwhile, East City is under attack from Biberians, and the city's staff-bearer destroys them all in an instant with a massive lightning bolt. Everyone starts cheering for him, Meanwhile, Otto apologizes to Takudo through Manra for killing so many people, but Takudo had no problem with her. Realizing this, Otto thinks that even though Takudo appears calm and kind on the outside, he is a total evil inside. Sometime later, the last car of Takudo's palace is completely completed. Takudo is overjoyed to see it. Then Otto suddenly realizes that Takudo is the king here, yet he doesn't have a personal servant. She asks him what kind of servant he wants. "I'll find one for you." Takudo says, "Anyone will do. I just need to be easy to talk. Need to be easy to talk. Too, because I haven't been able to talk to anyone properly yet." R2 replies, "That's because they think you look like a dark shadow." Otto then immediately summons Gio, Molter, and Amelie and orders them to gather all the beautiful girls in the village because Takudo desires them. Everyone is shocked by what they've just heard. Molter then musters the courage to ask, "What are you going to do with her?" Otto replies, "Because Takudo likes beautiful girls." This sends Takudo into a tizzy. He immediately stops Otto and explains the truth. He actually wants to find a servant for himself. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief. But as the girls are brought in, they start crying in fear at the sight of Takudo. Otto asks Molter if he has anyone who wouldn't be afraid of the king. Gio suddenly mentions a pair of twins with a terrifying past. A short while later, twin sisters arrive at the palace and reveal their names as Korea and Maria. Korea speaks to them with great respect, while Maria speaks to Takudo as if he were an old friend. Otto then asks Korea how she got all those marks on her body. She explains that they were caused by an illness. Otto then asks what happened to Maria. Without hesitation, Korea says, "I ate my mother." Everyone is stunned. This is even more horrifying than Otto had expected. Even Molter was embarrassed. He then reveals the truth. When they fled their village, the famine was so severe that their mother sacrificed her life to save them. Hearing this, Takudo understands that perhaps this is what has completely shattered Maria's mind. However, one positive thing is that Maria wasn't afraid of Takudo at all. But Otto still wonders if this will be right for Takudo. Maria approaches Takudo and says that he appears white to her. Takudo is shocked as everyone sees him as black. Takudo then asks her if she would like to be his attendant and take care of him. Maria agrees, to Otto's surprise, as Takudo was able to talk to Maria so comfortably. Takudo then asks Coolio to be his attendant, as she had been very quiet the entire time, and she also agrees. Takudo is overjoyed, and the two sisters are given the responsibility of caring for Takudo. However, Molter, somewhat upset by the loss, tells Takudo that their hearts have turned to stone since their mother's death, and that they will cause him a lot of trouble. Maria and Kuria then start their work shortly afterward. On the very first day, Maria brings water for Takudo, but accidentally spills it all on Takudo. Toria immediately apologizes and wipes the water off Takudo. Meanwhile, Otto enters the room, disheartened by what has happened. She wanted to scold Maria, but Takudo stopped her. Otto then reminded Takudo that she had a meeting, and explained that, as attendants, Maria and Korea would have to accompany her. The meeting began shortly after, and Emil first reported that the palace had been completely rebuilt, and that many people were now free. So he was ordered to immediately build a clinic. Otto then asked about resource collection, and Emil reported that food and other supplies were currently going well, and that Takudo had also helped, but it had cost him a lot of mana. Therefore, they would have to find another way and conduct research that would increase Takudo's mana production. When asked about magic research, Molter explained that he had developed military magic, but for now, he could only use it alone. He was confident that with some training, the others would be able to learn it as well. Molter agrees, saying that very powerful magic can be cast using the rune mana emanating from the palace. But Takudo refuses, fearing it could start a war. For now, Atu orders Mode to research the 6 elements of the magic skill tree. Finally, Atu asks Gio for an army report. Gio explains that their army currently has only 5 scouts checking the forest. However, sending scouts outside the forest is too risky, as they can be easily spotted. Atu orders Gio to send all the scouts to monitor the forest's borders. Gio hesitates, worried about their army's strength. But Atu assures him that if any threat arises, she can handle it alone. Furthermore, Takodo has already decided to summon a new hero, and Takodo tells everyone that he has ultimately decided to summon Isla. He asks if all the necessary resources have been gathered. Muda replies that although everything has been arranged, they haven't been able to secure enough mana. After much debate and negotiation, the meeting finally ends, and Takodo returns to his throne room. As he walks, Maria suddenly bumps into him, causing all the meeting documents to spill onto the floor. Takodo apologizes on his behalf and begins to pick up the papers. However, in his haste, he accidentally tears one, causing both of them to look up in panic. They think Takodo will be furious, but Takodo shows no anger at all. Maria approaches him and asks, "Are you a bad person?" According to the alignment, he was a bad person. Maria then asks, "If you're a bad person, why do you forgive us so many times after such a mistake?" Takodo asks, "What do you think is the difference between a good and a bad person?" So Maria says that a good person does only good things, and a bad person does only bad things. Takodo says that's only half true. A good person always does the right thing, but a bad person doesn't always do bad things. They are masters of their own will. They do whatever they want. Furthermore, Takodo understood that Maria and Koria were deliberately making mistakes. In fact, they both wanted Takodo to kill them in anger. Takodo explains that it will be difficult for them to forgive themselves after that incident. But your mother sacrificed her life so that you two could live. Therefore, you should live your life well so that your mother's sacrifice will not be in vain. Hearing this from Takodo, Maria and Koria burst into tears and hug him tightly. Then, a few hours later, Odo comes into the room and sees Maria and Koria asleep next to Takodo. He feels jealous of them. Odo then tells Takodo that the nearby city is called Daunt Train, and that people of many different races live there. Takodo begins to wonder why such a strange city was built. Odo explains that Dratton's location is due to the Dratton vein mine. This mine is very valuable because it produces mana. She further suggests that the place must be taken over as soon as possible. Currently, the Biberians have attacked, and the situation there is worsening day by day. Observing the situation in Daunt Train, Takodo deduces that some people may have fled and are hiding in the surrounding areas. He believes that accommodating these people in Mandra will increase Mandra's population and foster a good relationship with the Dauntran, making it easier for him to seize the mine. He then asks Otto to immediately send some people to Daunt Train. On their way there, they encounter a group of West Kisses who are terrified because Otto's entire team looks like Black Saw. Otto is ready to kill them all because he can't let anyone find out about him. However, a silly sass B-skin named Pep starts a casual conversation with Otto, which calms Otto's anger and he decides not to kill them. Otto then learns that Tono Kokoli and his team have actually escaped from Daitan, which proves to be very lucky for Takudo, as this will no longer require Artio to go to Daitan. He then offers to take them all to King. Ton Kokoli is a little scared, and when she meets Takudo face to face, she trembles with fear. Before meeting Otto, Ton Kokoli's group encounters a giant joint. Papo, the staff bearer, uses his magic to knock down the joint. Instead of killing him, he climbs atop it, proudly boasting about his incompetence, causing the joint to stand up again. Enraged, Preppy is about to attack again when Tonkopoli steps in and binds the joint with her magic. Tonkopoli then angrily hits Peppy on the head, scolding him, saying that as the only staff bearer, the fate of the entire tribe rests on his decisions. Yet Papo doesn't take this seriously, saying that if the joints continue to attack Dantering, the entire town will soon be destroyed. She didn't know the reason behind the attacks. She had heard about the caused land, so she decided to go there and investigate. But now she regrets her decision. One wrong move by Pepe had put everyone's lives in danger. Meanwhile, Pape fearlessly asks Takudu, "Would you like to be my friend?" Hearing this, Tono Kapali panics as she could face a direct death sentence. She quickly apologizes to Takudu, but Takudu says he'd like to be friends with Pape, surprising Tono Kapali. A lucky feast is then prepared for their group, and as soon as Tono Kapali takes a sip of apple juice, he finds it delicious. Pepper also likes the juice so much that he immediately asks Maria for a refill, but then he goes to Gio and starts praising his muscles. He then starts showing his magic to Molter, and doesn't stop him from doing so. Takudo is impressed by Pepe's ease with anyone. He was happy to have befriended Pepe, but he didn't know what friends do to each other. And while Pepe is being scolded by Tonokapoli, Takudo suddenly asks him, "Will you play a game with me?" Everyone is surprised. Takudo feels a little awkward, but Pepe happily agrees, and the two sit together and start playing. They spend a long time playing different games, many of which Takudo had created himself. Pepe suggests that Takudo should sell them on the down train, but Tonokapoli immediately stops him, saying that such decisions are not Pepe's place to make. Takudo is happy with Pepe's suggestion, as he wanted to trade with Denton anyway. After dinner, Ro asks Tonokapoli why they're actually here. Tonokapoli replies that his country is constantly under attack, so they were investigating the cause. Takudo asks, "Can't Dontrin fight these Biberians?" Hearing this question, Tonokoklan panics, because if Takudo learns the truth, he could attack and capture Dandrin. So she lies, saying Dandrin can still defeat them, and they just want to find out about them. But then Pep opens his mouth and says that their attack will completely destroy Dandrin, and this raises tension between the two Kokpoli. Atu and Takudo tell him that they have no intention of taking over any other route. But they can't ignore the Biberians' attack as they might have other prey. Tona Kokpoli, surprised, asks, "Does this mean you'll help us?" Doctor replies without hesitation, "I want to help my friend." Hearing this, Tona Kokpoli is overjoyed, but then she asks, "What do you want in return?" Art replies, "We want the downed van," which makes Tona Kokpoli's face fall, but they had no other option. Then Odo says, "You can use it too, but only we will choose its mana element conversion." Hearing this, Ton Kopoli is surprised, because even Dandrin needs another 10 years for this. But Mandra is already quite advanced. She further states that Pepe will make the final decision based on the rules, as he will become the ruler of the kingdom. Pepe is then asked for his opinion and Pepe agrees. Shortly after, Otto calls a meeting to finalize the terms and conditions of the agreement with Dontrin. Manraha then decides to send food to Dontrin in exchange for metal, thus sealing the deal. Moltar is overjoyed with the deal and says that it was all thanks to Pepe. Takudo now wonders if Pepe is truly foolish or if he planned this all deliberately. Meanwhile, Maria and Korea are a little confused. They ask what kind of country Dotrin really is, as they need to know about a kingdom to befriend it. Takudo reflects that when he played the game, all he had to do was click a button to establish a relationship. But in the real world, it wasn't that simple. Then Ioto says they'll first investigate Christian Moon, the capital of Dontrin. But Docto says they first need to rescue Dun from the joint. Maud reminds them that you can't just go to another country. There are rules. Maria and Korea raise their hands and ask, "Can't we go there under the guise of playing?" The plan seems a little childish, but it also seems quite useful. Then comes the question of who will go there. Malterji and Emin, being high-ranking, couldn't go. Takudo didn't want to endanger Maria and Korea, and since Ioto was very important to Takudo, she couldn't go. Maria and Korea approach Takudo and say, "You gave us the freedom to make our own decisions, and we want to go there, no matter the dangers." This means Takudo has to agree to their demands even if he doesn't want to. But Ioto becomes jealous of how he's agreeing to everything they say. Upon returning, Otto is furious and Takudo is at a loss for words. He asks Maria for help. She tells him to just tell her what's in his heart. Takudo gathers courage and tells Odo, "I'm sorry. No one can replace you, and I only want to be with you." Hearing this, Otto is overjoyed, and dreams of a happy married life with Takudo begin to wander through her mind. A little while later, Takudo takes Maria, Korea, and Otto to the newly built clinic, and tells the twin sisters that he's sending some black doctors with them on the mission as bodyguards. He then introduces them to everyone. They can practice healing magic as well as fight. The doctors are very excited about the mission. Takudo names them Ichiro, Gio, and Suburo. The three are overjoyed with their new names. Seeing this, Takudo and Otto are confused as to whether it's appropriate to appoint them as bodyguards. And Korea doesn't like him at all, but Maria likes him. Morantic, an elf in Dent, was completely frustrated with her work. She didn't even want to quit, but she had to work. Just then a servant knocked on her door and she yelled at him to run away. But then, realizing her mistake, she realized what was going on. Her assistant told her that some people had come to visit her. Antic immediately said, "Send them back. I don't have time to waste." But her assistant told her they were from Manara. Upon hearing this, she immediately realized it was an urgent matter. She then went into the meeting room and introduced herself to Antic. "I'm Mayor Antic of Dent." But as soon as she saw the doctor, she yelled something strange, thinking that Tono Capoli had made him his friend. Her heart races, thinking, if I offend them, Manra and Dontran's relationship will be ruined forever. Then she asks, "Are you two here for some purpose?" Korea is a little confused, wondering what to say. Just then, Zero steps forward and says, "We're here to play games based on Pepe's invention and learn new things." Hearing this, Auntie breathes a sigh of relief. Still, she knows she has to be very careful to avoid any international accidents. She offers to take them on a tour of the city, and the next moment everyone sets off. Throughout the day, Antique shows Maria Aurea the various sports in the city, and the three have a great time. Meanwhile, Takudo is busy with paperwork at Manra's. Nevertheless, he keeps a close eye on how Maria and Korea's mission is progressing. In the evening, Antique and the others say goodbye to each other and return to their respective places. Maria and Korea begin reviewing the day's events in their room. Korea asks Maria how she's found the city so far. She explains that the people here seem very restless, as if some serious trouble is looming over them. They don't even have food. Maurice is astonished to hear this, as she hadn't seen her talking to anyone. Yet how did she gather so much information? Maria could actually sense people's feelings just by looking at their expressions. Just then, Zero hands her a small bag that Maria had asked her to bring. It contained a plant. Maria explains that it's a piece of purple grass, and it's so dangerous that it's completely banned in almost the entire kingdom. It acts like a drug, and she immediately throws it away. So the real issue was how the substance was available here despite being banned. It meant someone was secretly supplying it. Zaboro then takes a deep breath and says that if such a thing exists in the city, they'll have to be even more careful, because no one knows what else could be lurking around here. The next day, they go to see Drunton Van, where beautiful, glowing crystals are visible everywhere. A man named Vesta approaches them. With a slight smile, he says that purple grass grows very well in this place. Korea asks what his real motive is. Vesta explains that he heard that they are both emissaries of the Mandra nation, and that this land will soon belong to Mandra, so he wanted to make a deal with them. He says, "I want you both to work with me to grow purple glass." Korea then asks, how will Mandra benefit from this? He explains that purple glass fetches a very high price in the market, and if they work with him, they will also receive a large share of the profits. Korea immediately asks what he means. Vesta gently tells them that this can't happen here, directing them to another location, and gives them a map. Korea hesitates slightly, but eventually takes it. As Vesta leaves, he makes a very strange remark. "I don't find it very popular to work with bad people. And the current mayor is very strange because she refuses to sell the grass. But the new Korea will definitely support me." A few days later, Maria and Korea meet Antic again, as she is about to leave town. They talk and say goodbye. Suddenly, the door to the room opens, and Vesta enters with two thugs. Antic angrily shouts, "How dare you come here?" Vesta is unfazed, saying, "I'm here to get my answer. Why didn't you two come to see me?" Maria asks, "Are you talking about the purple grass deal?" Hearing this, Antic's face turns pale with fear. She immediately begins to think that if Vesta somehow manages to ally with Manra, the city will be completely ruined. Vesta senses Antic's fear and tells her not to worry. She then tells Vesta that she should have understood by now that we have no interest in her business. Korea then asks Antic if they can deal with her, as doing anything without permission could lead to an international incident. Antique says, "You can do whatever you want with her. She's been a nuisance to the people of this city for a long time." Upon hearing this, Maria and Korea order the three Marys to deal with her. But Vesta is not at all afraid, as she carries a siren filled with the purple flower drug, which can completely transform anyone into a drug addict with just one dose. Maria then looks at her angrily and says, "If you even try to touch us, you'll be making the Man Kingdom your enemy. but Vesta says he will blackmail Takudo by making Maria and Curia his slaves. He then orders his goons to capture them, but the next moment his sword hits the wall in front of Vesta, causing her to collapse in fear. Meanwhile, Takudo, speaking to Otto, says that the Medicus twins are truly helping the mission. M then asks why he sent the Medicus with Maria and Curia instead of the Warriors team. Art explains that the three of them actually like humans and subhumans very much. While they possess healing magic expertise, when they reveal their true form, they become a nightmare for anyone. The scene shifts back to Doton, where Medicus has cut West's two goons into pieces. He holds their skins in his hands and smiles menacingly. Seeing this, Antique sinks to the ground in fear. So Maria goes to Antique and tries to comfort her. Meanwhile, Vesta falls to her knees and begs for mercy. But Curia says, "I don't interfere with your drug-dealing business because it's not my problem. But you threatened me and my sister and insulted our great king Takudo, so now you must die." With that, she orders Medicus to kill him. A few minutes later, the three Medicus are happily roaming around wearing Vesta's skin, and Antique is there, watching this. Just then, Curia says, "Sorry for messing up your office like this. Do we have to pay for the clinging will?" Antique shakes her head nervously and says, "No, there's no need." As soon as the group returns to Manara, they are immediately called for a meeting. There, Odo angrily asks Takudo, "You didn't stop them from doing such a dangerous thing. You were watching it all live." Takudo replies, "I didn't want to interrupt them." Odo slams the table, shouting, "I told them not to use violence. But these people have crossed all limits. Killing is fine, but skinning him, and that too in front of an enemy," his voice silences the entire room. Odo orders them to write a long statement that this behavior will not happen again. A few hours later, everyone gathers in the meeting room. They discuss the situation in Dendron, which has been in dire straits. Starvation and criminal activity are on the rise. U is constantly being attacked. The joints have wreaked havoc there, and their attacks are increasing with each passing day. Because of this, the city's defenses are gradually weakening. Malter then says that the people there are tired of the constant fighting, and that their performance is declining. And if nothing is done, Jonan will soon be completely destroyed. Gear immediately suggests sending a large number of troops to strengthen the city's defenses. Emil retorts that this will directly impact the farming and construction sectors, creating a severe staff shortage. Then Atu says, "If I go on this mission myself, we won't need to send so many soldiers." Hearing this, the entire room falls silent, as Atu's involvement has now turned the mission into a high-stakes battle. But when they consider Atu's skills, the decision seems right, and Malter agrees to take over in Atu's absence. However, Emil is a little worried because Atu and Takudo weren't responsible for Mandra's security. Therefore, if they are attacked, they won't be able to defend themselves. But Takudo has already thought of a solution. He tells everyone that he will soon summon a hero named Isla, and thus they formulate a complete plan. But Takudo was a little surprised that it all went so well, because when he played the game at the hospital, he had to plan everything alone. But many people were helping him. After the meeting, Takudo went outside to summon the hero, and all the resources were ready. Meanwhile, Maria and Korea asked him whose person Isla would be. But Takudo himself didn't know, as this was his first time summoning a hero in this world. Takudo then began the summoning process, and a glowing cocoon formed in the air. Isla emerged, bowing her head to Takudo, and introducing herself as the Queen of all Kitos, recognizing that it was the same Takudo who had been playing the game for years. Atsu interrupted and asked Isla if she was really going to serve Takudo. Isla smiled at him. She gently pats his head, causing Atu to blush and angrily ask him to answer the question. Isla insists that she must serve Takado. A while later, Takado, Atu, and Isla are at the palace. Takado explains the situation to Isla, explaining that he must protect Manra. While Atu is leaving for a mission, Atu becomes emotional, as she will be away from Takdo for so long. They will miss each other greatly. The next morning, Atu leaves for the Daunt train with some soldiers, leaving Isla to protect Manra. It's afternoon, but Takado is still fast asleep on his throne. Just then, Maria and Kiria arrive, and tell Isla that Takudo always sleeps until noon. Hearing this, Isla wakes Takudo up saying that a king shouldn't do that because he's setting a bad example for everyone. Takudo feels a little embarrassed and promises to do his best to wake up early. Isla then requests Takudo to send Maria and Kiria with her for a day so they can give him a better understanding of the place. Takudo agrees. Isla reminds him that he has a meeting shortly. Just then, Emil arrives and everyone leaves. Emil shows Takudo that week's labor report. Takudo takes the paper but is deeply nervous, as it was the first time he'd spoken to Emil alone. Seeing him so calm, Emil asks if there's anything wrong with the report. Takudo immediately refuses, saying it's perfectly fine. Just reduce the amount of resource collection from next week, Emil says. Okay, I'll make that change. Takudo gets tired just from the conversation, even though he still had several meetings to attend throughout the day. Meanwhile, Asla and the twins are touring Manara. First, they show the government office where all the paperwork is handled, but then they start to annoy Emil a little. Isla asks her what's wrong. Emil explains that Gio is using too much of the training equipment. It's messed up my entire monthly budget. Isla calms Emil down, saying everything will be fine and that she'll talk to Gio about it herself, which is what Emily was worried about. Isla goes to her and says, "You don't need to waste those equipment." Gio replies, "I just got a little too excited during the training." Isla tells her to be careful next time. Suddenly a bell rings. Isla asks what the sound is. Maria and Korea explain that it means it's dinner time. Everyone gathers together where food is served to everyone. The Dark Cells offer Isla a special shahidabad, but she refuses it, saying, "I want to eat normal food like the rest of us." Later that night, Isla is wandering the city alone. She hears crying from somewhere. When she goes there, she is shocked to find Maria and Karia crying in a corner. Isla asks them what's wrong. They both explain that their mother came to them in a dream. However, since they met the Dakotas, such dreams are rare. This makes Isla worried about them, and she says, "I'll stay here tonight." Hearing this, both sisters feel much better. The next morning, Isla visits Takuda. They discuss opening a learning institute. Meanwhile, Isla asks Takuda how Otto is doing. Using his powers, Takuda sees Otto currently caught in a very interesting situation. He becomes a little excited as dozens of joints are coming towards him at full speed. For anyone else, it would be terrifying. But for Otto, it's just a normal thing. He simply extends his tentacles, and within seconds, all the joints fall to the ground, dismembered. Seeing this, Antique is both shocked and frightened. Otto asks her to take a break. Afterward, Otto goes to Moltor. The Dractans were very nice to them. Some people bring Otto a drink so she can relax. Moltor thought people would be scared after seeing his true form. But surprisingly, that wasn't the case. In fact, when Achu first showed his true form, Pipa compared him to an octopus. So now everyone thought he was just an octopus demi-human. After a while, Moltor asks, "How's your plan to harvest the joint's skills?" Otto smiles and says everything is going better than expected. The joint's skills were much more powerful than he thought. But he still doesn't understand how the joints acquired such strong skills. Suddenly, Otto feels something strange. She turns around and sees another joint heading straight for the city. They are perplexed that the joint's presence wasn't sensed until they got very close to the city. A while later, Antique comes running to Otto and tells him about Joint. But Otto tells him to rest and runs towards the battlefield like lightning. Antique becomes worried about him. But Molter reassures him that such a weak joint can never defeat R. But Molter finds it boring to just stand there and watch. So he decides to help. He picks up his staff and uses the magic he's learned to cast the Lord of Ruin spell. This spell spreads a dark mist around Joint, weakening him. Otto immediately takes advantage of this, draws his sword, and cuts Joint in two in one stroke. But then something strange happens. Joint's body suddenly disappears, and a multitude of gold coins scatter on the ground. Yayoto immediately tells Takudo this, and Takudo, shocked, says he has no idea why this happened because it's never happened in his game. Udo then asks Malter if he knows anything about it. But for him, this was also the first time he'd seen coins after a monster died. Then Takudo gets an idea. He asks Ioto to share his vision so he can see the coins himself. Firatu does so, and as Takudo looks at the coins, he remembers seeing them in an RPG game called Brave Quest. That game also featured similar coins. The scene then shifts, and in the northern region, Saint and her knights are passing through a city recently devastated by a hurricane. They are investigating the site when suddenly, all the knights are killed. The culprit behind this bloodshed is none other than Arachino. This is the 17th time Saint has encountered Arachino. He is perplexed as to why this woman hasn't died one last time. Arachino replies, "I've died 17 times, but I come back every time." Arachino also finds it unfair that Saint is so powerful, and her own power is no less. Yet far from defeating Saint, she can't even come close to defeating him. And each death is excruciatingly painful. Saint angrily declares, "You're just passing time with me." Arachino realizes her plan has been discovered, and she revives all the dead bodies lying nearby, and they all attack Saint. So Saint picks up her staff and uses her fire magic. Burning all the bodies around her to ashes, she then quickly slams the staff straight into Arachino's chest. This was the 18th time Saint had killed Arachino, but she knew Arachino would definitely come back again, so she decided to find a way to completely destroy her. Meanwhile, on the date train, a massive army of joints suddenly appears near the city, completely terrifying all the guards posted at the gate. They had never seen so many joints together before. By then, Takato also realizes that these creatures are from the world of Brave Quest. In that game, the player plays as the hero, and their goal is to defeat the Demon Lord. In that game, announcements are randomly generated, so there's no warning signal, and yet exactly the same thing is happening. Even Iceland never imagined that their enemies could come from another game. The systems of both Eternal Nations and Brave Quest were completely different, but Takuto had experience in both games, so he knew how to handle this threat. Two people were behind this attack on Dracht. Thaman and Ice Rock were discussing their plan. Their goal was to conquer this place and subjugate it to the Demon Lord. And when they were summoned to this world, all the gobs and joints present there immediately joined their demon army. But Ice Rock is in deep thought. He says, "We spent our entire lives conquering the world of Brave Quest. So do we have to abandon it and conquer this new world?" Fleming says, "At this point, only the Demon Lord's orders matter to us." They then decide to completely destroy Dracht City. Ice Rock then orders all his monsters to track the entire city. So all the monsters begin to advance. Rock asks Flamen, "Won't you join us in the battle?" Flamen says, "No, you must lead this battle." Ice Rock then enters the battlefield, and Flamen plans to begin working on his secondary goal. But then, a thick black smoke suddenly covers the battlefield and all the monsters begin to suffocate. The sudden black smoke spreads across the battlefield, causing widespread panic. Ice Rock and his assistant, Mage Oslo, are initially frightened, having never seen such magic before. But gradually Oslo realizes that all the neutral monsters are suffocating, while Ice Rock and he himself, like Eldamus, are growing stronger. A pair of black tentacles emerge from behind Oslo and pierce straight through his stomach. He immediately falls to the ground. After finishing his work, Ioto turns her full attention to Ice Rock. Ioto immediately realizes that it must be one of the Demon Lord's 4 generals. Ice Rock is shocked and asks, "How could you recognize me so quickly?" Otto replies, "I'm a hero of the Etrin Nation, and I'll kill everyone here right now." Meanwhile, in Detrin City, Antic gathers all the soldiers and orders them to fire arrows. But the arrows have no effect on them. Seeing this, Antic immediately orders everyone out of the city, saying, "We're all leaving." Just then, Moltar arrives and laughs. "You're thinking of giving up so easily." To which Antic replies, "This is the only way we can save our lives." Moltar then says, "Don't worry. Otto is already on the battlefield and will defeat them soon." Anto couldn't believe how Moltar could remain so calm, even in such a dangerous situation. She looks at the battlefield, her eyes widening. There, Otto is single-handedly destroying the enemy army. Antique now wonders how powerful Mandra really is. On the battlefield, Atu was running around so fast that Ice Rock couldn't land a direct attack on her. She was eliminating monsters one by one, completely astonishing Ice Rock. In reality, Atu was following the clan created by Takuduk. Battles in Brave Quest were limited to a small scale. However, Eternal Nation was a civilization simulator, so characters like Atu had a much greater attack range than those in Brave Quest. Ice Rock angrily shouts, "Why are you interfering with our plans? You guys are evil too. You should serve our demon lord. Hearing this, Atu says, there was a time when Takuduk and I thought about taking over the world. But we immediately scrapped that idea because it was too much work, and we had to do paperwork day and night. Hearing this, Ice Rock is completely confused. So Otto says, you're one of those RPG characters whose creators never bothered to give a backstory. Ice Rock, however, couldn't understand Otto at all. He said, what nonsense is this RPG? Otto mocked him, saying, don't you remember how many times you've died with the hero of the game? You exist solely to lose. She easily dodged all of Ice Rock's attacks, as if it were just a game for her. He was seething with rage. Otto saw Ice Rock preparing to attack. What a fool, she thought. I'll dodge him easily. But as she tried to move away, she found her feet frozen to the ground. She hadn't expected a trick at all. Just then, Ice Rock attacks him with her axe, which hits Otto directly, severely injuring his shoulder. Ice Rock is overjoyed to see this. The next moment, Otto, enraged, counterattacks so quickly that Ice Rock cannot sense it, and is killed in one blow. She then immediately heals herself. She too is enraged by the attack and checks Ice Rock's skills, as he had stolen her skills. She is shocked to see that his attack was a guaranteed hit, meaning she couldn't have stopped it. After all this is over, Otto immediately tries to report to Takada, but as she makes her call, she is shocked. She sees a massive army of enemies gathered around Mandra. Meanwhile, we are shown the Demon Lord from Brave Quest, constructing his new castle. Meanwhile, a dark health guard in Mandra rushes into Takada's office. He panics and tells Takto that the enemy army is advancing towards them. But Takto remains calm as he already knew everything. He's not even slightly worried. He tells the guard that Takto has a special ability that allows him to know everything that's happening in his kingdom. So as soon as the enemy army approaches the forest, Takto immediately orders Gio to stop them with the main force. Hearing this, Maria and Korea become a little worried and ask Takto if Mara is in any danger. But Takto tells them not to worry. Meanwhile, Isla asks if this demon lord is another evil like you. Takto replies, I don't care. I always wanted peace. But when R killed one of their 4 generals, they decided to attack my kingdom directly. So now I won't show mercy to anyone. Takado's army currently consisted of Gio and his dark elf warriors, Mechis with healing abilities, and larvae created by Isla. With their help, Takado could easily stop this army. Shortly after, Takado receives a message from Emil. He advises that civilians who do not want to fight should be evacuated to a safe place. Takado is relieved to hear this. Gio then calls the front lines and informs them that there are approximately 1,000 enemy soldiers facing them, including orcs, goblins, and some strange creatures. Takado then says that their focus should be on protecting the capital, but Takado is left wondering that 1,000 soldiers is far more than he expected. This battle was not easy, but they still have a good stock of resources. And since Takado knows everything about the world of Brest, this is a major advantage for him. Isla asks Takudo if he'll use these resources to build new traps. Takudo says, no, I'll invest all these resources in you. You need to level up as much as possible so you can learn new skills. Then this enemy army will be unstoppable. Isla is shocked to hear Takudo's words, but now everyone's hope rests on her. Meanwhile, in the distant forest, the Demon Lord is advancing with his army, and Takudo explains to Isla that watching Otto's fight has given him an idea of how strong the 4 generals are. They won't be able to stand against you. Isla feels proud that Takudo has so much faith in her. She immediately begins preparing for battle. Just as Isla is about to take off, Takudo stops her and says, but be careful, this RPG system has many unfair attacks. If you're even slightly careless, it could be a disaster for you. Isla remembers that something similar happened to Otto. She shakes him and promises that she will be very careful. After this, she says goodbye to the twins and civilians and moves on. On the other side, in the dense and scary forest, a small group of 5 demon soldiers is moving towards Manara. Then a knight asks, why are we separating from the Ice Rock group and entering this scary place? Then the maze walking nearby says softly that this is Fellman's order. I think Fellman is doing this mission secretly from the Demon Lord, and he is going to defeat the Demon Lord soon. Hearing this, the knight gets shocked. Maze is about to tell something further. Suddenly they hear a noise. and when they look over, an orc emerges from the trees, sent to do the counting. They sense something amiss and refuse to let him approach. It's just an orc, covered from head to toe in throbbing, terrifying growths. The orc cries out for help, but before Knight can do anything, the orc's body begins to explode, and hundreds of tiny larvae emerge and fly toward the 5 demon soldiers. They try to kill them, but the larvae are too numerous to handle. Finally, Mage orders them to retreat and the soldiers panic and run. But then a dangerous sound echoes through the forest, and all the soldiers stop, terror clearly visible on their faces. Knight and Wedge terrifiedly shout, "Whoever you are, come forward." And the next moment, Aizla emerges from the trees and says, "If you call yourself the power of darkness, then show your power." After this, we only hear those words, and after a few minutes, there are only dead bodies lying there. Just then, Aizla receives a powerful presence message. She turns around and sees Flemen standing in front of her. He says, "I am one of the Demon Lord's 4 generals." Hearing this, Aizla says, "The general himself has come to me. That's good. Now I won't have to bother looking for you." Flemen is a little surprised that she already knew he was there. Aizla further says, "Once I destroy you, the rest of the army will flee on their own, just like what happened to Ice Rock." Hearing this, Flemen is initially shocked that Ice Rock has lost. Then Esker says, "He was the weakest general anyway, and I am many times more powerful than him." Hearing this, Aizla laughs at him and says, "Do you think you can win?" Flemen becomes enraged and declares that after he finishes you off, he will do the same to your stupid King Takudo. Hearing this, Aizla becomes enraged and Flamine attacks her. Meanwhile, the Manra twins are guarding Takudo's office, and Takudo uses his powers to analyze the battlefield situation. He sees that the fight between Aizla and Flemen has begun, but he is confident that Aizla will win. Outside, the G and Dark El warriors have formed a defensive formation around the capital. Imul was guiding the others to safety. Everything was going according to plan. But something still didn't seem right to Takuro. Maria asked, "Why do you look worried?" Udo replied, "I don't know, but it feels like something is going terribly wrong." San then returned to the fight between Flamine and Aizla. Flamine was amazed at how strong the monsters of this world could be. In a fit of rage, Aizla sent hundreds of larvae toward Flamen, which clung to his entire body. However, Flamen used his fire magic to burn them to ashes. He then summoned several minions using his own power, which Aizla was astonished to see. Flamen then began attacking him with fireballs, which Aizla blocked with her lava. He then sent his minions to attack. Aizla infected them all with parasites and told Flamen to retreat. She then asks why he attacked Munara instead of Dakton. Flemen says, "You should have known that already," and asks who he is. Aizla explains, "I'm a hero of Manara and a loyal servant of Takodo." Flemen is astonished to hear this, wondering how she can call herself a servant with such pride. But she says she's serving Takodo willingly, while Flemen is forced to serve the Demon Lord. Perhaps that's how the whole game is designed. Then Flemen attacks Aizla with all his might, causing Aizla to flee. But ultimately, Flemen's attack hits her, and Flemen thinks he's won. But Aizla had created a cocoon around herself and is completely unharmed. Seeing this, Flemen goes berserk and begins launching fireballs at a rapid pace. But Aizla easily slips through them, leaping swiftly and striking Flemen with her sharp blade. As Flemen falls, he remembers his past, the mysterious Astavu, who summoned him and the Demon Lord to this world. He had promised to free him if Flamine destroyed the entire world. But now, dying, he realizes the truth. He was merely a puppet. Then Aizla launches another attack and Flemen's body splits in two. Aizla immediately tries to contact the Takurs and report, but suddenly, her connection is lost. She looks around in shock, and Maria and Koria appear before her. Aizla, completely perplexed, wonders what is happening. She immediately orders her larva to protect the twins. But then something unexpected happens. Clemen's lifeless body suddenly begins to move, and the pieces begin to rejoin. Takudo was watching everything with his own eyes, but suddenly his vision fades and he receives an error message. Meanwhile, Aizla, unable to contact anyone, runs away with Maria and Korea, not wanting to risk it. But after a while, she sees that everyone has returned to the same spot. Just then, Flamen bursts into laughter, shocking Aizla. She tries to hit him again, but this time her attack has no effect. Flamen says, "You can't stop me even if you want to. I'm already defeated." She attacks again, but something prevents her from doing so. Then Takudo sees a message that gives him some insight. He remembers that after killing Fleming, he briefly returns and launches a dangerous attack on the entire party. The scene then shifts and the twins are terrified. Isla tries to calm them down. Seeing this, Fleming laughs again and says, "You won't be able to save anyone." Hearing this, Isla, enraged, attacks Fleming again and again. But it doesn't make any difference. Suddenly, Isla's entire body freezes, as if someone is controlling her. Fleming replies, "I'm helpless here too. You can't imagine how many times this has happened to me." Meanwhile, Maria and Korea slowly begin walking towards Fleming. Their bodies are no longer under their control. Isla, despite her best efforts, is unable to stop them, and Fleming laughs at them. Both Maria and Korea are terrified. Isla tries with all her might to free herself. Blood starts gushing from her hands and feet, but it's all to no avail. Fleming calls Isla a fool for thinking she was acting on her own will, when in reality, Fleming and even the Demon Lord are merely pawns in this game, and have always been lied to. Takudo is also very evil to her, using everyone around him as mere tools. Therefore, before he dies, he will take Takudo's favorite character with him. She refuses to do so, but Flamen says he can't do anything because it's already fixed, and the next moment her body explodes. Maria and Korea are standing nearby, but she is unharmed. Isla had come forward and saved her, but now she is badly injured. Maria and Goria call Takudo for help, but they can't contact him. They don't know what to do. Isla stops them and says, "I don't have much time left." They both start blaming themselves for Isla's condition. Isla assures Maria and Korea that they're not at fault, but the twins refuse to accept this. They ask Isla to let them die with her, so Isla tells them to pay attention, as she has nothing to offer them, and knowing that Maria and Korea have already been chromatized after eating their mother's body, she takes out her heart with her hand and tells the twins to eat it and live for her. Maria and Goria burst into tears and refuse, but Isla explains that eating her heart will restore all their skills. Meanwhile, in Dayton, Otto is dealing with the demon army. She becomes a little irritated because Molter is still chasing her. She tells him to go to the city and wait for her, but Molter says that Takudo ordered him to stay with him. Just then, more monsters appear and Otto becomes enraged. She immediately kills them too, but the next moment she receives a notification, which makes her scream in anger. So Molter tells everyone to duck down. After a while, Adi calms down a bit. Molter asks what happened. Otto reveals that Isla is dead. Meanwhile, Takudo is still in shock over Isla's death. He tries to contact Isla again, but this time he receives a message stating that Isla no longer exists. Upon reading this, he falls to his knees. He realizes that, just like in the game, Isla has transformed her powers into another being. Meanwhile, Maria and Korea eat Isla's heart, giving her powers and her hero title. However, she's not at all happy with this. The communication lines are working properly, and Taco immediately explains everything to Audio. Audio doesn't understand clearly, but in this emergency, Audio wants to return to Manara immediately, but Taco stops her. He explains that the twins are still alive, and thanks to Isla, they've become heroes. Currently, they're heading straight for the enemy to seek revenge, disobeying Taco's orders. Therefore, he wants Audio to go and bring them back. However, Audio doesn't feel comfortable leaving her alone, but then she has to leave because she couldn't ignore Takuro's words. Meanwhile, at the demon defensive line, Korea approaches the Wind Demon General alone. The general initially mocks her for having so casually entered the area, but as she orders her execution, Korea opens her eyes and activates her new power. Meanwhile, Maria begins dancing madly in front of them, muttering that the whole world hates her. The general, unable to comprehend what's happening, suddenly cries out in pain. The general, without delay, uses a Curd Wind attack to finish her off. However, it has no effect on Korea. As soon as Korea makes eye contact with the general, her skin begins to peel away from her bones, and within minutes, the Wind Demon General's face completely melts, leaving her dead. Meanwhile, Maria confronts the Earth Demon General before he can attack with his magic iron suit. Maria uses her power to shut him down, causing him to collapse. Maria then closes her mouth. She slowly approaches the Earth General and kills him as well. After eliminating everyone, they begin to leave together. A message appears before them, declaring them a third-degree threat to the world. They are also nicknamed the Witches of Regret. Meanwhile, another player from this world appears. He is astonished that two such fragile-looking girls are as powerful as him. He resolves to destroy the entire world. Only then will he find freedom. Before the battle begins, the man asks Twin if she believes in God, to which she replies that she doesn't. Upon this response, the Demon Lord immediately creates a powerful barrier around himself. However, to their astonishment, Twin breaks it in an instant. He is stunned by this, as only the chosen hero could break that barrier. And according to his agreement with God, there shouldn't be such a hero in this world. While the twins silently approach, an enraged Demon Lord transforms into a beast and attacks them with hundreds of swords. But Maria is unfazed. She effortlessly blocks each sword mid-air, and Goria uses her magic to send it crashing into the ground. Then they both pick up swords lying on the ground and attack him together. Demon Lord tries to retaliate, but Korea cuts off his left arm with a single blow, shattering half his body. But even in such dire straits, she refuses to give up, determined to survive. The twins laugh and mock her. Korea says, "No one will come to save you." But suddenly, the Jamun Lord's wounds heal, and he is completely healed and thanks God, only to have his body ripped in two. This attack was carried out by someone else. The twins turn to him angrily and ask why he's interfering. He replies that he thought they might need help. Korea replies, "We don't need help." The man raises his hand and says he has no intention of fighting them. They can never defeat him anyway, as their level is too low. Hearing this, the twins stare blankly at him. They then go to attack him, but before they can, Atto suddenly appears and freezes their feet. She tells them that Tapor wants them to take the people back because their mission is complete. But before leaving, the twins refuse. However, Atto clearly reminds them that they can't refuse Takto's orders. But they still don't listen. All they wanted was to avenge Aisla. Hearing this, Rado decides to teach them a lesson, but she reminds them that Takato himself once said she could do whatever she wanted. At that very moment, they realize they can't go against Takato and lay down their weapons. She then apologizes to Aisla, and Aisla forgives her. She then apologizes to Aisla, and Aisla forgives her. The mysterious man also apologizes and immediately disappears. As he leaves, Aisla notices that he's wearing a school uniform, possibly the same person Tapur suspected. The twins then ask Aisla if Aisla can be brought back to life. Aisla, saddened, says it's impossible. Hearing this, both sisters burst into tears. Aisla then sends a report to Takato, informing him that they're returning. Then Takuto realizes that the mechanics of the 4X strategy game are also implemented in this world, and the enemies are also using their own RPG system, meaning new trouble could arise from anywhere. Meanwhile, the mysterious man collapses to his knees from exhaustion. His hands tremble as he remembers R2 and the twins. He curses the god who brought him into this world. He had said that two beautiful girls were in danger, and he simply had to save them. But in reality, these girls were nothing less than demons. Just then, a girl, his slave, comes to him. She says that God apologizes for accidentally bringing him into this world, but the girl believes it was intentional. After all, it was because of that same God that he collided with Tagun and ended up here. And the only good thing he found here was his beloved slip. Suddenly, a huge monster appears behind them, but the man easily cuts it to pieces. His tremendous strength was given by the same God whom he hates. His slave is stunned by his power, and they continue. Meanwhile, Parakino respawns for the 19th time, leaving the priest standing in front of him completely stunned, as she completely reduces his body to ashes. Even though she was sealed with powerful magic, she refuses to give up. But the priest is determined to defeat him. Just then, someone throws a dice into a bowl and the priest falls to her knees in an instant. This leaves Parakino astonished, but then she begins to mock him. She looks up at the sky and thanks the dice master. Meanwhile, Takato is deeply troubled. He realizes that if he makes even the slightest mistake next time, their entire kingdom will be wiped out. In anger, he punches the ground, causing it to crack open, and he falls down. Only then does he realize how powerful he is. To test his strength, he knocks down nearby trees with his punch. He becomes angry with himself because if he had understood his power earlier, Isla might still be alive today. That evening, as soon as Atu and the others return from their mission, a meeting is called. Everyone expects the twins to face severe punishment, but Takudo says they won't face any punishment. Toes protests and Takudo bows his head and apologizes in front of everyone. Atu and Dark Elsa are completely shocked. Takudo then announces that Isla will be brought back. Atu immediately says it's impossible, but Takudo refuses to believe it. He says that if the world truly operates on the adrenal nation system, they can do it. Atu explains that doing so would mean rewriting the entire world, and if he chooses this path, the entire world will turn against him. But Takuro says he doesn't care about anyone. He will kill anyone who stands in their way. At night, Takuro is planning his next move. Meanwhile, the Dark Elves hold a small funeral for Isla. Everyone is deeply saddened. Then Tans tells them not to be sad, as Takudo himself has promised to bring Isla back. But everyone is still very scared. They doubt Takudo's ability to do it. Takudo, hiding in the bushes, watches everything. Then Tans again says, "Trust these Takudo. We shouldn't doubt them." Hearing her words, everyone becomes very motivated, and Takudo is proud of them. The next day, Arya goes to Takudo and is completely shocked. Takudo was very sad, and the twins were comforting him. Takudo says that he scared everyone yesterday. The twins tell him that everything is fine, and he needn't be so worried. Hearing this, Takudo closes his eyes, takes a deep breath, and declares that he will never let down those who trust him. Hearing this, Atu and the others become emotional and promise to support him till the end.